everybody, welcome to another special Crack-A-Pack on the Mana Leak. I'm John, as always, and today we're going way back in time. We're going back to the Ice Age. Ice Age was a very old expansion set. I think it was the 5th or maybe 6th expansion pack. It was before Homelands even. So this is the earliest pack we've got here. This was back when I played Magic. I don't know if I ever had a booster of Ice Age, but I definitely had some singles of it. Jester's Cap here is on the front, and it's a card that I always wanted as a kid. It's only worth like $3 now, possibly even less than that actually, but it's a card that I'd like to see in here. Value-wise, there's not a whole lot in this set. There's Necropotence, which is about $10 or so. There's the Allied Color Pain Lands. We recently saw the enemy ones in M15? Yeah, M15. So yeah, there's some cool stuff that could open up here, but we're going to open this up. We're going to discuss what we would take pack one, pick one if we were drafting Ice Age. First up, we have Conquer. Conquer is a 3 red enchant land. It says gain control of target land. So this is kind of like very expensive land destruction, or these days normally costed land destruction, except you actually get the land. This doesn't seem like something I'd want to play. I don't want to waste a slot on a 5-drop to get a land. I want to ramp on turn 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. By turn 5, I don't want to really be ramping. You get to deny them a land, but this just doesn't seem powerful enough to me. Next up, we have Knacker Talisman, something like that. It is a 2-mana artifact. You can pay 3 to untap target permanent. Use this ability only when a white spell is successfully cast, and only once for each white spell cast. This, of course, was before the great overhauling of templating. This would be worded differently now, I believe. So yeah, you can pay 3 to untap whatever permanent you want whenever somebody casts a white spell. Seems pretty narrow to me. Seems like something I don't really want to ever be playing in any format ever, especially because you have to pay 3 on top of casting a white spell. So yeah, we're just not taking that for sure. Well, we've got another artifact here. We've got Arkham's Weathervane. This is a 2-mana artifact. And boy, does it have some text on it. You can pay 2 and tap it. Target snow-covered land becomes a non-snow-covered land of the same type. So snow-covered mountain becomes a mountain. Mark the changed land with a counter. That counter would have a name these days. Pay 2, tap. Target non-snow-covered land becomes a snow-covered land of the same type. Mark the changed land with a counter. This seems horrible. I don't know how important snow-covered lands are in Ice Age. I've not played with the set that much. I was a kid at the time in, would have been grade 4, grade 5, I think. So I didn't have fancy cards. I had, the worthless commons from the Ice Age. So I don't know how important snow-covered lands are. I don't know if I want to be paying a card slot plus 2 mana to be turning lands into snow-covered or not snow-covered. So I can't imagine we're going to take this card either. Next up, we have Forbidden Lore. Forbidden Lore is a 2-green enchant land. We've yet to see a creature. We've seen 2 artifacts and 2 land enchantments. When Forbidden Lore comes into play, choose target land. Pay 0. Tap land Forbidden Lore enchants to give target creature +2/+1 until end of turn. So when it comes into play, choose target land. So I guess that is telling you to enchant a land. So yeah, you tap the land for free at least to give a creature +2/+1 until end of turn. That actually doesn't seem awful. Yeah, that doesn't seem horrible. I mean, I can't imagine taking this or really super looking forward to play it. But the fact that you get a land that just constantly buffs whatever creature you want for free, just tapping it. I mean, I guess you are essentially paying 1 mana for it. But yeah, that seems fairly okay. It's the front runner so far in this pack, I'll say. That's not saying too much, though. Next up, we have Gorilla Pack. Gorilla Pack is a 2 and a green Gorilla Pack for a 3/3. So it's a 3/3 for 3. That seems great. These days, that's normal. This could have a drawback, though, back in these days. Gorilla Pack cannot attack if defending player controls no forests. Bury, which means sacrifice. Gorilla Pack, if you control no forests. So yeah, back in these days, 3/3s for 3 were too powerful. They had to have downsides. The downside of Gorilla Pack is if you don't have any forests, and how did you cast this if you don't have any forests? You have to kill it, just sack it. More importantly, it can't attack if your opponent doesn't have forests. So I mean, it's a 3/3 blocker for 3, which maybe could be okay, but ultimately just seems, too weak on that downside. So I don't think we'd be taking that either. Next up, we have Prismatic Ward. Prismatic Ward is a 1 white enchant creature, so enchantment aura. When Prismatic Ward comes into play, choose a color. All damage dealt to target creature by sources of that color is reduced to 0. These days, that would say prevent all damage dealt by the source of that color. Maybe it was even changed to just pro color. But yeah, this seems fairly powerful, I would have to say, because you're going to know, ideally, what color your opponents are playing and be able to basically give your creature protection from probably half of that player's deck, which seems fairly okay. I'm not too upset with this card. I think this would take the front runner spot now. Removal was pretty powerful back in the day and pretty plentiful. We haven't seen any yet, so auras may not be the best, but I kind of like this so far. Another creature, we have a Mountain Goat. Mountain Goat is a 1 red for a 1/1, so it's a 1/1 for 1, and it has Mountain Walk. I can't see myself wanting to play a 1/1 for 1 that sometimes you figure, 20%, 30% of the time, it has an upside. And the other 70 or 80% of the time has nothing going for it other than being a 1/1 for 1. Not something I'm going to look to take. Next up, we have Barbarian Guides. Barbarian Guides is a 2 and a red 1/2 to summon some barbarians. You can pay 2 and a red and tap Barbarian Guides, and target creature you control gains a snow-covered landwalk ability of your choice until end of turn. At end of turn, return that creature to its owner's hand. So you can give a creature you have landwalk. You're probably going to choose the land that your opponent has. Now it is snow-covered landwalk, by the way, so your opponent needs to be playing snow-covered lands. But you then have to bounce the creature back to your hand. This could have some cool interactions with end of the battlefield effects, perhaps. I don't know how many enter the battlefield effects there were, and I know they weren't nearly as common back in the day as they are now. Way back in Ice Age's age, and for years after that even, spells were what Magic was about. Spells were incredibly powerful. These days, creatures are what Magic is about. Creatures are incredibly powerful. So this may not be as good as it seems based on what this format has. And that being said, I don't even think this seems that good per se. Next up, we have Seizures. This is a 1 and a black enchant creature. I'm getting the feeling Ice Age had an enchantment theme, because we've seen a lot of enchant creatures and enchant lands. So it's a 1 and a black for an aura. Whenever target creature becomes tapped, I assume that means enchanted creature, becomes tapped, that creature's controller pays 3, or Seizures deals 3 damage to him or her. So yeah, that must have been changed to whenever enchanted creature. So basically you would throw this on your opponent's creature, and anytime that creature becomes tapped, so whenever it attacks or whenever it taps for an ability, your opponent has to pay 3, or else they're going to take 3 damage. This doesn't seem that good. If you throw this on your opponent's best creature, they're probably pretty okay taking 3 damage, and very rapidly paying 3 mana isn't going to be that big of a deal either. So this just does not seem like that good of a card. It seems kind of like a trap card. It seems like a card that newer players would love. They would see the upside of this. They would say, if I play this on turn 2, my opponent's going to be taking so much damage or their mana is going to be all tied up, but they don't think about the fact that, on turn 5, this becomes nearly meaningless. So this just seems bad to me. Next up, we have Blessed Wine. Blessed Wine is a 1 and a white instant. Gain 1 life. Draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So I assume that means just the next turn, not your next turn's upkeep. So you get to gain a life for 2 and draw a card eventually. This is super weak. This is not something I would ever be looking to play. The gain 1 life may as well not be here. This essentially is just cycle for 2, but a slow cycle. That being said, you could, I guess you could cast it at the end of somebody's turn, and you'd get to cycle it nearly immediately. You'd get to cycle it at the beginning of the next upkeep step. So there is that possibility, but I don't really think I want a card that basically just says cycle and nothing else. So not taking Blessed Wine. Next up, we have Ray of Command. Ray of Command is a 3 and a blue instant. On-tap target creature opponent controls and gain control of it until end of turn. That creature can attack or use abilities that require tap as part of the activation cost. So in other words, the creature has haste. When you lose control of the creature, tap it. So it's basically Act of Treason. It's a card that we know in red, and an ability that used to be bluish with Ray of Command. Ray of Command's a fairly well-known card back from the day. These days, this is a red ability. Blue is much more the permanent mind control, or at least longer than a turn mind control. But yeah, this seems okay. You can get through the final bit of damage that you need to kill your opponent off. You can remove a blocker. You can do some fun stuff with this. I'd be fairly okay taking this, I think. Yeah, it's totally fine casting cost. Yeah, I like it. Next up, we have Rally. Rally is 2 and a white for an instant. All blocking creatures get +1/+1 until end of turn. So basically, you can buff your entire team on defense by +1/+1. Doesn't seem that good. I don't really want to be playing cards that explicitly require me to be on the defense. That's just not something I want to play. And definitely not in white, where I plan on being generally pretty darn aggressive. So not taking Rally. Next up, we have Legions of Lim-Dûl. Legions of Lim-Dûl is 1 black for 2/3 zombies that have snow-covered Swamp Walk. So a 3-mana 2/3 with very minimal upside, very rarely. Yeah, I'm not going to take this. Just doesn't seem that good. I'd play it if I had to. If I was in a black deck, back in Ice Age, there'd be no reason not to play a 2/3 for 3. But first pick, I don't think so. And then next up, we have Findhorn Brownie. Findhorn Brownie is a 2 and a green 1/1. You can pay 2 and a green to tap it and on-tap target creature. Yeah, I mean, this could have some fun effects if you have some creatures that have free tap abilities. If you got multiples of these and a whole lot of mana, you could do some fun stuff. But ultimately, it doesn't seem powerful enough to me. And I think that might be the rare. Oh, no. I think this is the rare. We got Power Sink. Power Sink is an X and a blue interrupt. Interrupt is not something we see anymore. Interrupts were instants that could be played at instant speed. They were on counterspells specifically. And it meant that it interrupted the stack, and it created a new stack. And there was some wonky stuff going on with interrupts, but they're instants now. So it's X blue. Counter target spell unless that spell's caster pays an additional X. That player must draw and pay all available mana from lands and mana pool until X is paid, or she may also pay mana from other sources if desired. So, Power Sink is hard to read. It's better templated these days. It's a card that I really like. Basically, it's an X counter spell. So if you want to counter a spell and your opponent has 5 mana untapped, if you pay 6 into this, your opponent is going to counter the spell. The upside of Power Sink, and the thing that gets a lot of people if they're not familiar with Power Sink, is you still have to try to pay it. So if you have 5 mana on tapped and I pay X for 6, you still have to tap that 5 mana that you have up, even though you can't successfully pay it all. Or you can't successfully pay the 6. You still have to tap everything. And that's really powerful. I really like this spell. And yeah, I think it's kind of down to Power Sync, Ray of Command, and surprisingly Prismatic Ward. Given how powerful spells are back in this day and how weak creatures are, I mean, the most powerful creature we saw was a 3/3 with a huge downside. The most powerful non-downside card we saw was a 2/3 for 3. Kind of gives you a clue as to what creatures were back in the day. That kind of knocks out Prismatic Ward for me, and it also knocks out Ray of Command for me. You know, my opponent would have to have an amazing creature for me to really want to play Ray of Command, and I just don't think that's going to happen too much. So I'm just going to take Power Sync. I'm going to take a solid counterspell, try to continue going countery, and just grind my opponent out. But yeah, that was a fun trip down Ice Age, seeing a million different enchant lands and enchant creature cards that are probably going to go in a box somewhere and not ever see the light of day again. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that. Definitely let me know what your pick would have been if you've drafted Ice Age, if you've drafted Ice Age Cold Snap as well, because that was a thing. Let me know what your pick would have been. Let me know your experience with the packs. I love seeing people's picks and their takes on the packs. As always, if you like the videos, you should definitely click the little thumbs up icon. That'll keep my videos up there at the top, and you should also subscribe to my channel. There's a button below the video, and there's one in the outro of each video. That'll keep you up to date on all the latest videos, the Crack-a-Pack Tuesdays, the Wacky Wednesdays, the Spiky Saturdays, and these videos when they come out, because these ones, of course, aren't really scheduled. They're whenever I happen to get a new pack. Just a quick reminder, we are attempting to open a pack of every set of Magic on this series. We're 4 in now, and an awful lot to go. It'll be a long time, but I'd like to get there, so we'll see how that goes. You can also find me on Twitter at The Mana Leak. That's Leek, like the vegetable, not the card. And you can also find me on Facebook at www.facebook.com/TheManaLeak. You've already found me here on YouTube. As always, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you all next time.